Okay, so I got the first batch of 3D printed parts back for the Kyosho Lazer ZXS and ZXS Evolution for reproduction. And as I mentioned in the previous video, I was going to get a few samples of different materials and do basically a break test to see which material works the best for this. So this is the original part. Okay, now by the way, I should clarify all of these parts here, right, each and every one of these, I have 3D CAD drawings for them for reproduction with 3D printing. But I chose to use the rear shock tower mount as a sample part to do the first 3D print testing, just to see how the parts print, and also to do some basic strength testing, because there's no point in spending money printing everything in every material and then testing it. That would be a bit wasteful. So this is the original rear shock tower mount. Okay, it's made using whatever plastic Kyosho had used. And then the cheapest among these 3D printed materials is this right here. This is the white natural versatile plastic. So a lot of times when you get 3D printed RC parts, you get it using this exact material, and it feels a little bit grainy, right? It doesn't have a perfect finish. You can get Shapeways to give it a bit more of a polished finish, but that does remove some material, and that would make it a little bit weaker. As you might be able to see, the holes for the screws, right, aren't quite cleared out. You can see here as well, the holes are a little bit gunky, and I think that's just a side effect of the granularity of the material used here. Okay, so this is material 1. Material 2, and by the way, this is the cheapest. Okay, so this particular part cost me $5.30 to print this part with the versatile plastic. Both of these cost twice as much, $10.60 to print with either of PA11 SLS or this material here. It's a natural nylon 6 mineral filled material. This is a new material from Shapeways, so I'm kind of curious to see how it stands up. So we'll just go bit by bit here. And by the way, as you can see, in terms of the shapes and the geometries and everything, all the measurements are a perfect fit between the 3D printed part and the original part. Okay, same here, perfect fit. Alright, so this should be a direct fit to your ZXS. This is the PA11, also in white, but as you can see, it's a bit more of a, it's almost like a translucent white. It's not like a bright white like the natural plastic one. This one does also feel kind of grainy on the outer surface. Okay, but just by the feel, it does feel like it's probably a little bit stiffer. Same issue with the holes here, right? Some of the holes are a little gunky, so although not nearly as bad, if you will, as this. So this is maybe a slightly finer grain material. You'll still have to, pre-tap the holes perhaps, but overall not bad. And then over here, this is the natural nylon 6 mineral filled material. It comes naturally as a black color, although not the exact black as a Kyosho part. Again, this also feels a little bit grainy. But what's interesting is that the holes, not a single hole looks like there's extra material in the hole. Okay, so this does look like a pretty high resolution print process. So the first thing I want to do is just a basic screw test. Oops, wrong wrong screwdriver. I want to see how well a simple 3mm screw will go into one of the holes without having to tap the holes, just to see how it feels. Okay, so we're going to start here with the natural plastic. There's no squeaking. It goes in pretty easily, right? Not too much fuss. I'm going to go all the way through. Okay. As you can see, there's a little bit of powder that comes out. That's from the sort of material that the thread from the screw is kind of shaving off. Okay, fine. So when I built my Nix 91, all the parts were made, I believe, using this material, and I know it was a weak material because I broke quite a few parts using it. Now this SLS, we're going to try this, see how this feels. This also slots in pretty nicely. In terms of like the tension, it feels about the same between the two as far as how much force I need to use to actually thread this screw through. But as you can see, the material that comes out doesn't look like a powder. It looks more like an actual sort of single piece, if you will, like a shaving of plastic. So my guess is that this will be a bit stronger than this. Okay? So we're going to take this out. And we're going to do the same thing over here with the, was it the nylon 6 mineral filled blah blah blah. Just getting it in there. Okay, here we go. Ooh, yeah, I gotta try a little bit harder on this one. So you gotta use a bit more torque to thread this screw into this material here. So this may, if I had to guess, maybe this would be the toughest material. Maybe. We'll see. But yeah, that really takes some effort. And similar to the PA11, right? It doesn't come off as like a powder like this material. It's kind of like a shaving of plastic that comes off. Okay? So, very interesting. And it's definitely, I can feel it's getting warmer around here than in the others. Like, it gets a little warm here, a little warmer here. This gets pretty warm just from the friction between the screw and the material as you're trying to thread the screw in. Okay, so in terms of the screw test, if you want to call it that, this one seems to be sort of the densest or the toughest material, but we'll have to see how it actually breaks. So we're going to try to break each one of these, and I want to do it using the same technique each time, so that way I'm not corrupting the result. And I have vice grips and a basic wrench here, and I want to try to break it along the same sort of component. So there's a few ways I could try to do this, some being more difficult than the others. One would be to try to break it along the center of the part here, which is maybe that would be kind of difficult to do consistently. Another would be to just try to, if I can break this ear off here. So then the question is, okay, do I break it off this way or this way? Well, since the shock tower usually mounts like this, and if you have a collision, it might break off one of these ears. I'm going to try to break it off this way. Okay, so how do I want to do that? Well, let's see, maybe if I can set up the vice grips to kind of hold like so, and I'll just screw it one more. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to hold this down right about here, and let's see if I can do it consistently. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll set up the vice grip so that this inside edge here is aligned, or this outside edge of the vice grip is aligned with the inside edge of these screw holes here. Okay, let's see if this works. Now I'm going to take this, I'm going to do it on the threaded hole, I'm just going to snap it off. That's actually pretty flexible. I gotta say. Wow, look at that. That's quite flexible. I wasn't expecting it to be that flexible. Just kind of moves around back and forth. That is interesting. I thought that would snap right off. Wow, look at that. Okay, there we go. So after a couple of wiggles, we got it to break right about here. Okay, fine. I'm definitely not going to do it to this part, so don't even ask. Okay, so that took a bit. It was actually the first few sort of applications of torque there. It felt kind of flexible, so it seems like this part, you know, this might actually be able to take a few impacts before it totally snaps. It had some interesting flexibility to it. So, okay, fine. So if you wanted a part to use, you could probably get away with using this. And it is cheaper than these. It's half as much money. Alright, now we're going to go to this one, PA11. We do the same thing. You're going to lock it down in the same spot. This is the threaded hole. And we're going to move this back and forth. And I'm trying to lock the wrench around the entire ear like this, so that way this joint here is what's actually being stressed. Okay? Oh my goodness. This is a bit stronger actually. See, you can see a little bit of give. It's maybe a little hard to see under the light. There's a little bit of give right there at the bottom corner. And, you know, I'm not going easy on this. And of course, each time I go back and forth, the wrench wants to slip along this surface. But this is holding up pretty nicely, I gotta say. Oh, man. Lots of back and forth, back and forth. It's starting to give down there just a little bit. Alright, wow. That's, you really have to wrench on this to like tear that off. See, it's starting to give a little bit more. Clearly this is a lot stronger than this. Clearly. So you're going to get your money's worth on a part like this, or with this material. That's impressive. Pretty flexible, I gotta say. Wow. Alright, I'm just gonna stop there. The only way, because I want to try to simulate the same kinds of force that this part would see, I could take this and twist it and break it off that way, but this, you know, again, this part isn't likely to see that kind of force. So I lost count of how many times, but this took maybe, I don't know, 5 or so times to go back and forth before the part actually broke here. This one, you know, you could go back through the video and count